What's going on, everybody? Very happy and excited to be back today. Today I got a very special video for you guys that I really think you're going to appreciate. It's going to be a lot of information because I feel like the community might need this information. I saw a Facebook post that said, I hear that Lake Chapala is a beautiful area that is mostly expats. Anyone living there? Thanks in advance. I wanted to break that question down and give you all the information that Brittany and I received just by living in that area, because we were in that area for quite some time when we got our investment property. We learned a lot about it, and I want to talk to you guys about it. So many people go there. Why do so many people go there? There has to be a reason why, right? This place is so popular. This lakeside area, so popular. Why do people go there? Now, when you think about lakeside, you're probably going to be thinking about Ajijic, Chapala, and Jocotepec. But there's many different places along lakeside. So the question was, I hear that Lake Chapala is a beautiful area. That encompasses many different places, and that's what I'm trying to get at. This person here leaving this comment probably doesn't realize that. They're probably focusing on, again, the three big ones right now: Jocotepec, Ajijic, and Chapala. Okay, those are just three towns along the lake. There's so many more, such as San Luis Soyatlan, and I'm probably saying the names wrong. I don't mean to, but I'm not going to be the greatest at pronouncing this stuff. Mezcala, which Brittany and I did a video on already that you guys can check out on the channel. Tizipan, La Palma, and so forth. There's lots of different areas that this lakeside area encompasses, okay? Now, for the purposes of this person's question, they're probably thinking about the big three. Again, Ajijic, Jocotepec, Chapala, those are the big three right now. And the reason that those are the big three is because they have the most foreigners that are there. Okay? They're under the impression that mostly expats are living there in comparison to, let's say, for example, native Mexicans. That certainly is not the case. You have a vibrant Mexican community all throughout the entire lake area. Not only do you have it along the entire lake, all the unknown towns, right? I'll call them unknown towns to the foreigners, but you also have the Mexican community within the three big ones, the Jocotepec, the Chapala, and Ajijic. Let's get into some of those things now. I also want to say, guys, this is very important. We were wrong. Brittany and I were wrong. Now, actually, I can't speak for Brittany because I'm making this video, right? I haven't spoken to Brittany about this, but I feel like we were wrong. We made a video talking about the downsides of Lake Chapala, or the bad things about Lake Chapala, something like that. We were biting off of a video that Tangerine Travels did a while back, and we even tried to copy the same thumbnail as a joke. I don't think anybody realized that, but I'll just let you know now. That's what we were trying to do. But we were also trying to give honest information about the area. That video was not received well, and the reason why is because we were talking about the things that we personally didn't necessarily like. I realize now that it was wrong for us to put out a video like that. We shouldn't have did that. And it's going to be something that I keep in mind for many videos to come in the future. I'm not going to do a good video and then a bad video, because then those videos are separated. Because I've done videos talking about why the lakeside area is good, but not everybody sees that video, and so then they think we're just bashing a town, which certainly not. So from now on, we need to be more balanced. I need to be more balanced. I can't speak for Brittany. I'm sure she would agree with me, though. And we need to actually tell you the good and the bad, probably in one video, okay? And when I say the bad, I don't necessarily mean it's bad. Everyone's perspectives are different, and everybody has a right to their opinion. We're telling you maybe not even the pros and the cons, just the different dimensions of what these areas that we visit have, okay? Every area is like a diamond. There's so many different facets. Soft landing. Absolutely soft landing. You're gonna come to the lakeside area. We're talking about, again, the big three. If you go to some of the other towns, you won't have these things. So we're talking about Chapala and Ajijic mostly. possibly even a little bit of Jocotepec, okay? Very soft landing. You come from their country, chill over in the lakeside area, in one of the big three, and feel like they never left their country to a very large degree. But at the same time, they have a very unique experience of also having the Mexican culture. It's kind of like being from wherever the foreigner's from, but with a Mexican vibe. Now, to people who first come, they're going to think, oh, this is Mexico. This is all of Mexico. No, 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 no. I can't stress that enough. Brittany and I have traveled a lot in Mexico, and I can tell you that every single place in Mexico is different. But the lakeside area specifically, the big three, is probably one of the most unique places in Mexico that you'll ever find, which probably lends to the reason why so many people come here. Why is it one of the most unique places? Because the integration between the two, or however many cultures, the integration between all the cultures here is just insane. It's insane. It's even more so than a place like, for example, Puerto Vallarta, where they take American dollars, right? It's even more insane than that. The towns, they somehow integrated foreign culture, foreign businesses into a Mexican world. It's unlike any other place you'll ever go to in Mexico. So if you're coming from a foreign country, don't think that this is Mexico. This is just one place in Mexico, and it is probably one of the most unique outliers of Mexico ever. Just want to point that out. Now, what's some of the negative? I'm just going to say negative, even if it's not necessarily negative. I have to kind of put it into perspective. Good, bad, pros, cons. Let's just call it negative, even if it's not. What's some of the problems with the soft landing? Well, you're not going to learn the language. If you don't know the language already, you're going to come to the lakeside area, and it's very likely that you won't feel motivated to learn the language. Now, why is that bad? Well, it's bad for a couple of reasons. The first reason is, the biggest reason I think, you won't be able to get to know the people. We'll touch more on the people later. The people are so beautiful. Why would you ever not want to get to know them? They're just amazing. You need to get to know the people. And the conversations that I've had with some of the people, because Brittany and I practice Spanish, are just amazing. And when you meet Mexican people who speak English, you can see how amazing they are through the English language. Like, you get to know them through the English language, right? So you start to realize these people are amazing. Amazing, kind, loving, beautiful, talented human beings, okay? So that's one of the things that's not good about that soft landing, in my opinion. You won't get to know who they are, and they are what make the place so good. That's my opinion, but I don't want to touch too much on the people right now. We'll touch more on it later, okay? Another bad thing about the soft landing is you're going to be overcharged for that soft landing. Let me explain. Some restaurants will have double menus where it's foreigner prices for the foreigners, native prices for the Mexicans. Many businesses will have foreigner prices and Mexican prices, okay? We've been overcharged. Just for an example, we got overcharged by our gas guy, the guy who used to bring our gas tanks. He used to overcharge us by approximately 50 pesos per tank, and before we found out that that's what he was doing, because he seemed like such a nice guy. Like, he was just like such a nice, he seemed seemingly, and maybe he is, such a nice guy. We used to tip him 50 pesos on top of the 40 pesos overcharge that we were already getting. And when I found that out, I was like, you know, this is sad. I'm over here tipping the guy, but unfortunately, he's already taking his tip in advance. That's one of the bad things about that soft landing. You will pay for that soft landing. You may come to the lakeside area and think, oh, this is great. I can just be myself here. Yes, you can be yourself to a very large degree, and you will be overcharged for it. That is the price you will pay. That's the price you'll pay, okay? Not everybody's doing that to people, but I can guarantee you it's happening a lot, okay? So Unfortunately, that's just what it is. All right, so let's move on to the next topic, is the variety of food. The lakeside area has a variety of food. They have Thai food, they have vegan food, there's Indian food there, tons of different varieties. You're not gonna find that variety everywhere you go, okay? And for such small towns, it is insane that they have so much variety. Like, these small towns are relatively built up in comparison to many other small towns. So that's a very cool thing, all right? The variety of food. The problem, kind of the con part, right, would be that it is quite expensive. So Brittany and I have actually went to restaurants where we took note of the prices, and they can rival New York City prices. Now again, the Mexican people are probably not always paying that. You as a foreigner are probably paying that. Maybe not in every restaurant or every shopping place, but certainly it's being done, and you will have to kind of accept that. And I recommend maybe just not think about it. And if you do find out that it's happening to you, deal with it accordingly, like speak to the owner, speak to the manager, let people know. That's all I can do. I don't think it's right that that happens, because I feel like foreigners are probably very generous in general when they come with their money, very generous, big tips and stuff like that. At least I am. But it is what it is. That's just the way it is. So that's the con of the variety of food. A lot of it's going to be very expensive. You also have very inexpensive places too. These are just examples to give you guys an idea of what it's like to live in these areas, okay? The next good thing is that it's beautiful. Yes, when Brittany and I first arrived, I was like, oh, this is like Hawaii. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Hawaii. Brittany and I have been to Hawaii, and there's many different areas in Hawaii. I don't remember the one that we went to, but it was just gorgeous, drop dead gorgeous. Now, this lakeside area is probably not as beautiful as Hawaii necessarily, but it is a pretty close comparison. I mean, you got gorgeous plants, gorgeous trees, gorgeous flowers. Again, beautiful people, which make the whole experience great. And so it's just beautiful. But a downside to that beauty is also that depending on the time of the year, you're also going to have a lot of dust and a lot of dirt because it's very dry. These areas don't necessarily get so much rain, especially depending on the time of year. And so it can get very dusty, very dirty. You know, you might be like on a bike path, which they have, you know, in these areas, they have bike paths, and you're just going to be covered in dust and dirt by the time you're done with your bike. So that's kind of the downside of that beauty. The next thing is that I want to say that it's clean. It's clean to a degree. Now, this is where the pros and the cons come in. The weird thing that Brittany and I noticed, especially in the Chapala area, specifically, but also in Ajijic, is that there's garbage on the floor. People will just literally just place their garbage on the floor. Like, you'll be walking by somebody, they'll literally take a can of soda, leave it on top of some random person's car, and it'll be like that for the next 2 days if the guy doesn't move the car. People putting food items on people's steps, you know, for their private homes. I was in the middle of the street once, and I just saw a young man just eat out of a bag of tacos, drop the rest of the tacos on the street, and just keep it moving. And it was like shocking to me, because it doesn't seem to be, to a large majority of people, it doesn't really seem to be like a concern about the cleanliness. Now, why did I say it was clean? Well, the reason why is because people are constantly cleaning. So all that dirt, all that junk, all that garbage that you end up seeing, after a couple of days, somehow it's just gone. Like in the morning, I woke up at 3 in the morning one time, walked outside to get some air, and I literally just saw some random person cleaning the street. I don't know if they were being paid to do it, probably not, or if they were a resident who was concerned. But it made sense to me then why I go to sleep and it's very dirty on the street, a whole bunch of garbage, and then all of a sudden I wake up and it's not, because people clean it. So it's clean and dirty, okay? Very weird, very strange. But at least it doesn't necessarily stay dirty all the time. That's good. But you will be surrounded by a good amount of garbage, throughout the days that you're in those areas. The next is the people that are here and the families. First, we'll talk about the Mexican people, then we'll talk about the foreigners that are here. The Mexican people, no matter where you go in Mexico, are so nice, so kind, and so loving. Now, there are degrees depending on where you are in Mexico as to how much. But as a whole, all of them, regardless of the degrees, they're all so kind, loving, humble, beautiful human beings, okay? The problem, the sad part, is that in places like the lakeside area, they may be jaded. And how so? You have foreigners coming, bringing their culture, bringing their ideals, bringing their language, bringing their expectations into the Mexican person's country. You can start to see on many of, not all, but on many Mexican people's faces in these areas that they're a little bit upset. They're not necessarily happy with the foreigner presence, okay? Foreigners also cause things to become more expensive for everybody, including the Mexican people. So that's another reason why they might be upset. But overall, very kind, very loving. The foreigners, very kind, very loving, very beautiful people. We've met so many foreigners in those areas where they're just great, such cool, chill people, no matter where they're from. But then you also have the foreigners who are not. And these areas, the Lakeside Big Three that we're talking about, they actually have a name for those people. They are called Cogs. Cranky old gringos. That's what Cogs stands for. The fact that the area has that terminology, has that acronym, should give you a great idea that many of the foreigners who come bring their culture, their ideals, and impose them on others, including on other foreigners, because a lot of foreigners will come to these areas, to Mexico in general, to get away from their old culture, not to be surrounded by it again. So when the cog personality comes, they're bringing it with them, and that will affect the Mexicans badly and the foreigners who want to get away from that type of mentality badly, okay? Now, I'm going to give you an example of something that I've physically seen. I was at a bank, I was doing some bank work, and there was a foreigner on the phone, older gentleman, probably in his 60s or 70s, and he had a Mercedes parked outside of the bank. He's using the bank's personal cell phone. The bank employee whose phone he was using was sitting behind the desk where he was talking. He was talking to another bank employee. He gets so angry about having to fill out another piece of paper that he gets up from the desk, slams the personal bank employee's phone on the desk, scares the bank employee. She literally got scared by this like 6'2" gigantic foreigner, slams that phone, throws the chair into the desk, walks out, gets into his Mercedes, and takes off. That's the kind of stuff that's going to make the Mexican people hate all foreigners. That's the kind of stuff. Don't be that kind of foreigner. You know what I'm saying? The next is the variety of people. You got a variety of people here. You got indigenous Mexicans. You certainly don't have more foreigners than Mexicans, gratefully, right? Because this is Mexico. That'd be kind of weird. But you have a variety of people. Many different cultures come here. You'll see like German people walking around, Australian people, British people. You'll see Canadians, people from the United States, a whole bunch of people. Many of them are older, but there are younger ones. The good thing is that you get to experience that, right? Many places in Mexico, you'll only have Mexicans. And so that's a pretty cool thing to see such a diversity. It's beautiful. It's kind of like the United States is so diverse. When you walk around the United States, no matter where you are, you have signs in English and Spanish. Many places in Mexico, they will only have the signs in Spanish. In the lakeside area, in the big three, you'll have English and Spanish to a very large degree. Not all the time. And not everybody speaks English. Just throwing that in. Not everybody speaks English, and don't come here expecting them to. You need to learn Spanish, okay? Very important. Very humble people, very kind, and the ones who do speak English, very humble, kind, and loving. For them to do that. You're also paying sometimes for that convenience. Remember that, okay? So you have the variety of people, and you have the different cultures that those people bring. Again, I said they have Thai food, they have Indian food, they have a whole bunch of different types of foods, cultures, right, in general. Stores, shops. The problem comes with the cultures clashing, right? People will live the way they've always lived. And many people will not adapt accordingly when they get into another country, especially when that other country is already adapting for them. They'll just be like, yep, I'll continue being me. That may not work. And so you'll have culture clashes. You'll have jokes that don't make sense to the other culture. You'll have people getting insulted without the intention for them to be insulted being there. You know, stuff like this happens. So you got to keep that in mind. Try to kind of blend in and be a part of the culture. That's my recommendation, rather than bring your own culture to the place you're going to. That's just my recommendation. The local areas are very small. Remember, these are smaller towns, okay? You have to remember that. And so what's great about smaller towns? What's great about that type of vibe? Well, number one, it's very local. You have beautiful businesses, mom and pop shops, people running all those businesses, with such beautiful hearts, minds, and philosophies. So tons of great local vibes. The opposite end of the spectrum is that it may not always be as convenient. So for example, you may not find big shops like, they do have a Walmart in that area, but it won't be very well stocked with many of the things that maybe perhaps you would want to see. Or, they're not going to have like a Home Depot. For me, when I was in the area, I needed a Home Depot because Home Depot would have carried what I needed, but the local shops did not have it. And many people will just say, oh, we'll just go to Guadalajara. Well, in essence, in theory, you can, of course, because Guadalajara is not far from the lakeside area in terms of miles. But that could be a 2.5 to 3 hour drive depending on the time and day that you go. So it could be inconvenient in that regard. Now the areas do their very best to make it convenient. You have very convenient types of shopping. You have stores that will literally go to Guadalajara, to the Costco there, and then stock the Costco stuff for you at an upcharge, of course. But you have them. At least you have them. So the town, again, for small towns, they got big stuff going on in these small towns. So you're getting a real small town vibe with big town energy. Try to imagine that, a small town vibe with big town energy. That's crazy. You ever seen the beginning to Beauty and the Beast, the cartoon, where Belle is walking through her town and everything's quiet and sleepy and all of a sudden it's like, boom, bonjour, right? That's kind of like these areas, no joke. It's insane. Very cool, very different. Wrap your head around it. It's amazing. Again, there's a reason why so many people come here, right? All right, next. There's always a party. What do I mean by that? Well, I've heard that in the past, I don't know if it's happening now, but I've seen in the news in the past that the people, the foreigners who live like year-round in Ajijic, were actually trying to shut down the local parades. That's mind-blowing. But the point is that there's local parades, parties, events, all the time. All the time. That's beautiful to me. I love that. I love that there's always a party, especially like in the Chapala area where they're not as concerned about foreigners being there, or like in the Jocotepec area where they're not as concerned as foreigners being there because there's a lot less foreigners. And it also seems like the foreigners who move to those areas tend to love the Mexican culture more and immerse themselves. So they don't mind the partying, but there's like always a party. There's always music, parades, people whistling. Dancing, you got all these events. I mean, man, it's just incredible. And you'll be like, is today a holiday? And they'll be like, no, this is a regular Monday. That's it. But the opposite end of the spectrum of that, the downside, right? It's not really a downside, but the con, we'll call it, is that it's noisy. If you, for example, are not really a social person, there's going to be a lot of people talking to you because the Mexican people are very friendly. So if you don't like noise or you don't really like to talk much, Mexico in general is not the place for you. In general, no matter where you are in Mexico. Those are things you have to expect. Remember, this is not the foreigners' country. This is the Mexico that's allowing the foreigners here. Look at those cultural things as beautiful. Now, of course, there's also things that are not beautiful, like, for example, the rockets that they shoot off, the fireworks that they shoot off. If you live near a church, you're going to be hearing the bell bum, 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 bum all the time. You do get used to that. It takes a little time. But these are the things that you're going to have to deal with. I remember during Easter time, the church was setting off rockets. And it was at like 7 p.m. or something, where there was just complete silence. And then all of a sudden, a rocket that sounded like a bomb went off, and I almost had a heart attack. I don't get scared easily. I don't get shocked easily. I don't get startled easily. I almost had a heart attack. I'm 37 years old. I almost had a heart attack. And immediately when I realized what happened and I caught my breath and my heart rate went down, I was cool with it because it's like, this is what they do here. But at the same time, you got to know that these things exist, okay? The dogs in the areas, they hate the noise. If you have a pet, don't be near a church. And even if you're not near a church, don't be near where they shoot off rockets, which is probably everywhere. So keep that stuff in mind. This is stuff you have to know. And that's why I'm happy to be able to answer this question. Great vibes all the time. So much energy in these little towns. But that's the opposite end of the spectrum. Next is the Facebook community. For many places in Mexico have Facebook communities. It's so cute. A lot of them are called expat communities or immigrants or foreigners, whatever. Very, very knowledgeable community. And those people go on the Facebook group and they help out other people in the Facebook groups, which is great. That's fantastic. It's wonderful because you could get to know things that you didn't know based on other people's experience. It's a nice little community. The downside to that is that you have a lot of cogs, like, again, cranky old gringos, we'll call it, that's what cogs mean. You have a lot of cogs on those groups, and then you have also a lot of angry Mexican people on those groups. I saw a post the other day where someone said, I'm trying to decide what area to move to. Should I move to Chapala, Ajijic, Jocotepec? Any opinions? And then a native Mexican who was in the group commented, don't move to any of them, go home. So that's the kind of stuff that you're going to see. Now, I personally, being on YouTube, have to always remember that there's a difference between real life and the internet. When you're on the internet, you might see a few comments, and those comments will make you feel like the whole world is that way, when it's not true. It's a smaller community online in a regard, right? But it also shows you the mindset of a lot of people in the area. You got a lot of, many times there are arguments and fights on the Facebook pages between gringo to gringo, foreigner to foreigner, and also Mexicans and foreigners. So keep that in mind. Those people are people who are in this community. There'll always be stress in communities and people. There's always, different types of people. But remember, it's more amplified in these areas because of that culture integration. You're going to have people with stronger opinions in these areas than in many other areas in Mexico. For example, Aguascalientes, you go on their group. I remember somebody posted something along the lines of, hey, do you know where I can make any friends in Aguascalientes? Which shows you how few foreigners are there when in comparison to a place like the lakeside area. They said, does anyone know where I can make any friends? I'm new to the area. Somebody literally wrote, I'll be your friend. I mean, me and Brittany saw that and we were like, oh my, so beautiful, so beautiful. And it was a native Mexican talking to a foreigner. Just so beautiful. You don't see so many beautiful topics on the Facebook groups for these types of areas. There is a lot of tension, but still, there are many beautiful people on there, foreigners and natives. Try to look at the good ones and be like, most people are good. That's what you got to do, I think. There are many doctors and many hospitals in these areas, which is great because then you don't have to travel to Guadalajara in order to get seen by somebody. I don't really think there's many downsides to this other than the fact that you got to choose, right? You have to choose. Oh, is this person better than this person? Is this person better than that? That makes it hard. But the fact is, tons of medical stuff in these areas. And even nursing facilities for people who are older. So really unique to many places in Mexico in that regard. And many of the medical places, the laboratories, the doctors, the hospitals, they'll speak English. You're paying extra for that in some way or another. But they do. And so that is great for you. But learn the language. I'm talking to myself too. I need to learn the language. I need to be fluent. I'm not fluent, nowhere near. So learn the language. Next are water problems, okay? That is the con. There are water problems in many of these areas, whether it's smelly water in the Riberas area, or whether it's people running out of water. It doesn't happen all the time, but there have been instances, I think mostly in the Riberas area. But the good part of that is that it's not everywhere. Not everywhere has water problems. And the other good thing is it seems like the different areas around the lake seem to care enough to try to fix the problems. I've seen tons of construction in Ajijic, tons of construction in Chapala. That shows you they care. They're fixing things. That's great, right? Fantastic. Those are the things that I have on my list. These areas are so beautiful, humble, culturally magnificent, local, which is great. And you're going to get an amazing experience when you come here. Again, these areas are not representative of all of Mexico by any means. If you've just come to these areas, believe me when I tell you, you don't know what Mexico is like. That's me trying to help you. Don't think all of Mexico is like these areas. It's not. There are many good things about these areas, many we'll call negative things about these areas, but overall, there's a reason why people come to these areas. And that's because they're special. These areas are special. They're mostly special because the beautiful Mexican people have allowed this unique cultural shift to happen where both cultures benefit mutually, happily, most of the time, and symbiotically. I hope that this video helps to answer this question. And if there's any other questions that we can answer for you guys, let us know in the comments. Look forward to getting out some great videos for you guys soon, as you know. Ensenada videos will be coming up shortly, as well as a multitude of others. Thank you all for being here. Have a wonderful day.